So let's see. All right, let's go to all right. This is my last pick, believe it or not. Because after this, I was like, you know what? I can't think of any more, but this is one that I want to talk about to all of you guys out there. Nicolas Cage, not in Godfather 3, but as the Man of Steel, Superman. This, Bill went off on his tangent tonight. I'm going off on mine. Nicolas Cage was cast as Superman in a movie called Superman Lives. Superman Lives was going to be a movie about Superman with all this different crazy stuff going on in it. Nicolas Cage was like, these are actually photos of him from the production photos. Like, again, for those of you who are listening to us on a documentary, Google Nicolas Cage Superman Lives and pictures will come up of what he was going to happen in the late 90s with Tim Burton directing this Superman film that never happened. Shameless plug for an incredible documentary that I love called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, by the late, great John Schnepp of Collider and AMC Movie Talk. Collider and AMC Movie Talk was a show that I watched and was my inspiration for the Super Review Show from the get-go. I love their work. Sadly, they all like disbanded and whatnot, and it's no longer with us. But John Schnepp was a pioneering part of that show, and I love him to death. I met him a couple times, and I have his documentary about this Superman film. This film would have consisted of Nicolas Cage as Superman, and without going into a lot of detail, but this movie was crazy. The costume was gonna light up. Nicolas Cage grew out his hair for this. There's a lot of it's an insane concept of how this almost happened as Superman back in literally 98, about 25 years ago or so. And it was bound to happen, and they just pulled the plug and said, this is just not working. We cannot do this. So the movie never happened. But if you want to see the documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, to figure out what happened to this movie, go ahead. Because it's a brilliant, fun documentary directed by the late, great John Schnepp, and it's awesome. And it would have had so many different elements to it, where Brainiac is literally just a head. And for those you know what I'm talking about, good for you. Brainiac is just a head. He's got legs. So, but I'm without going into super too much detail. Nicolas Cage was almost Superman. Bill, what's your take on this?
I think I don't know if I could see Nicolas Cage as Superman.
To be honest, I don't either. But you have to admit the concept of this
is interesting.
Is very interesting. It literally almost happened like 1999, 98. But yeah, so.
And because Nicolas Cage himself is actually a big Superman fan.
He named his son Jor-El.
He did.
That is fact for those you don't know. Nicolas Cage is a bigger Superman fan than Ben Affleck is a Batman fan, and Ben Affleck built a bat cave in his house like 10 years ago. Kid you not. So he took on Daredevil because he's like, I'm never gonna play Batman. Sure enough, he did. But he literally built a bat cave in his house, and it's crazy. But Nicolas Cage was a big Superman fan, and this is amazing to me. Watching this documentary was crazy. So
yeah, and also Nicolas Cage's uncle.
Yes.
It's Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, how funny is that?
I think I told you. Did I? Am I thinking of someone else I told?
I think you told someone else. I don't remember you telling me that.
Yeah, but no, okay, Nicolas Cage is Francis Ford Coppola's nephew.
That's insane. That's crazy.
Like he's like his father is Francis Ford Coppola's brother. And he actually changed his name to Cage after Luke Cage because he said, you know what, I want to make it on my own merits. I don't want to just get in because of my family.
Right.
Which I think is very admirable.
Of course.
But yeah, I wonder what this film would have been.
It would have been something for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. Just if you want to get to know this Superman movie that never happened,
So why
look
did
up.
it not happen?
So it just fell apart. Unfortunately, it's one of those movies that like never happened because it fell apart. Unfortunately, and I'm not trying to spoil the documentary, but there was a lot of like test footage. The costume was gonna light up. They were all doing all these test footage stuff. There's all this B-roll footage of him just as
Were there
Superman.
scenes that were shot or no?
They shot like concept footage of what was going to happen. Tim Burton was going to direct this thing too. So,
Oh God, Tim Burton as a Superman director.
well, I mean, he just came off of Batman and Batman Returns, but can you imagine him with like, like that? That's insane. It just the whole thing just sounds so nuts, and the concept art for Superman Lives alone, like he was gonna have a different costume. What's that, Bill?
To be honest, I
Yeah.
really don't think this film would have worked.
I know back in the late 90s when things were getting as crazy as it was. I mean, I completely agree that this movie, I mean, it would have been fascinating to see, but it just never happened. Jumping over to the chat board really quick. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. Go ahead. And I'll jump over the chat board in a sec.
Because I think the thing is, Tim Burton with Superman, who's a character that's supposed to be bright and hopeful, I don't think would have worked because it would have been more in a comic booky type world. Well, if you look at Zack Snyder, regardless of how you feel about Man of Steel,
correct.
JT loves it. I'm kind of about it.
Yep.
But Zack Snyder did more realism. So I think maybe that's why the concept of a darker Superman would have worked.
Yeah.
Because it's the way you go. You get what I'm saying?
I do. I want to jump over the chat board too. Hero of Time, again, thank you so much for chatting tonight with us, Hero. But personally, it would have been bad for me. Plus, the development of this movie was a mess. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but he is absolutely right when he says the development went through hell. They tried to make this movie so bad and it just did not happen. And I cannot emphasize this enough. If you are a Superman fan, if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, if you're a fan of documentaries, check out The Death of Superman Lives. What happened? Support independent film and do yourself a favor and watch this documentary because it goes into all the details on how this movie literally went down. The guy, John Schnepp, did such a great job with it. May he rest in peace, John Schnepp. But this documentary film is like a brilliant. It also shows how movies start in development and then they just don't go anywhere too. It's a really interesting documentary. I recommend you guys check it out too. But yeah, like the development was hell for this movie. It was awful. I personally, I'm kind of glad it didn't happen, but at the same time, it's just the concept art and the production stills and the props and all this stuff like Brainiac was, all this crazy stuff was happening to it. If you have not heard of this movie, look it up, research it, check out the documentary film I mentioned. But yeah, like this, I'm kind of glad this one didn't happen, but it would be fascinating if it came out. It would be fascinating if it came out. So
it would have been fascinating.
What's that, Bill?
It would have been fascinating, you think?
It would have been because again, for those who are home and those who are listening to us over the world, you're not gonna be able to see this photo, but like the Brainiac photos, Brainiac was just a head. Brainiac was literally just a head, and he just was in this glass tube, all this stuff. It was nuts. Like this is again, for those who are watching, good. This is what it would have looked like. But I'm going besides the point. Nicolas Cage's Superman, though, would have been a really interesting take on the character. I think Nicolas Cage as Superman, he would have been a very unique Superman, probably not received well by the press and the critics, but fans might have liked it. That's the way I think of it personally. That's me. But Cage as Superman, I don't know. I like the idea. He's a huge Superman fan, but do you see him as exactly? I mean, do you really see him as Superman? I mean, in the 90s, not today. Like, let's put it that way. So that's just me. But
I kind of
yeah.
agree.
So I don't know.
With you.
I don't know. Bill, any thoughts for Nicolas Cage as Superman? I know, and I went off on a tangent tonight, guys. I'm sorry, but it's a
I went
very,
off
very
my Godfather tangent. It's only fair.
okay, fair point. But yeah, this is the last pick I had before we go to the chat board to accept some live questions and live comments for what people are saying. As I'm birth brought something up pretty good before. Bill, do you have anything else before we go to the chat board? Or are we all set?
I think we're all set.